Okay, everyone, this is Ernie Svensson. I want to welcome you to this presentation about improving the conversions and leads you get with your website. We're going to talk about three important things that you can do that will help you build a better website, make it look more polished, and more importantly, the thing most people want to do is to get more really great leads every month because it's not enough to just get random run-of-the-mill kind of lame leads. You want to get really great leads, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. And fortunately, I'm not the person who's going to be mainly presenting because we have somebody even more expert at this than me, and that is my very good friend Megan Hargroder, who is someone I've known for a long time. She helped me figure out how to do online marketing. So, it's a special treat for me to present with Megan, but really, she's going to be presenting, and I'm just going to be here chiming in when necessary, which hopefully won't be that often. So welcome, Megan. Take it away.
Thank you. So this is me. A little bit more about me for anyone who I haven't met just yet. So my background is in TV news reporting, which definitely I think primed me for a future in web and marketing for the most part. And a few years ago, I started niching my social media company into working specifically with lawyers and specifically solo and small firm lawyers. So I've done a lot of speaking engagements with Ernie, and we've created some cool stuff together. And we've recently also branched out into creating attorney websites, which
Yeah.
are also really fun. And so you all know this guy,
Yeah, I
Ernie.
think everybody knows me. That's what I look like. That's what I do. I wrote a few books. I talk to lots of lawyer groups. I like doing it. And the reason I like doing it is because I got to the point of hating the practice of law when I was working at the big firm. I went out on my own. I liked that a lot more, but I really liked when I got great clients and when I didn't have to go out and go to networking events because I'm an introvert and I don't like going to networking events. Not that I don't like meeting people, but the problem for me is I like getting a lot of results from not that much work. And to me, networking events is a lot of work for not that many results. And while it is important to do it, I accidentally discovered that having an online presence accelerates on face-to-face networking in an amazing way, but it also lets you get clients who've never even heard of you, never met you, just found you on the internet. And I think that's kind of awesome. And I guess that's what we're going to talk about today, right, Megan?
Absolutely. We're going to be going over 3 secrets to creating a client generating website, which is what you're all here to learn about. And so without further ado, secret number 1 is to build or rebuild your website in WordPress. If your website's already in WordPress, awesome. You have a leg up. A lot of the benefits of WordPress that you want to be looking for specifically are search SEO, search engine optimization, which is how people are finding you online in search, or as Ernie says, how much Google loves you. So your goal is to be on the first page of Google when someone searches your specific practice area and the city or region in which you practice. So WordPress is going to give you the best opportunity for hitting page 1. WordPress itself doesn't do all that work. There are a lot of other things that go into it, and we're going to talk about those. One is copy. One is, using the right keywords, enough words, and putting things together in a Google-friendly format. So we'll talk about that. WordPress offers professional themes. It is a native blogging platform, so you can actually integrate a blog, which you should, and we'll talk about that too. You can schedule your posts in advance, which is really handy, so you don't have to ever sit down once a week and write a blog post every week. You could maybe take a week and do 4 or 5. You can schedule them out, once a week. And it's mobile friendly. And this is really, really important. We manage a lot of lawyer websites, and across the board, I would say about 50% of site traffic is mobile now. So if your website's not mobile, you're probably losing a lot of really great leads. So that being said, a lot of people think that WordPress is a blog. It's much more than a blog. And so I'm going to show you an example. So this is an example of, the top part of a WordPress website. It looks just like a website. It doesn't look like a blog, but it does have a blog component to it as well.
Yeah, I think the thing that's important to understand is that the reason why WordPress is preferable to just general blog software is or general website software, is that you can make WordPress look like a website. I mean, that's what it looks like. It's a website, right? So if you say, I don't ever want to have a blog, you don't need to, but you should use WordPress anyway, because one day you might want to have a blog. And if you want to have a blog, or you might want to pay somebody to blog for you, whatever it is, trying to tack on a blog to an existing website that doesn't have that to begin with is impossible, basically. Whereas you can use WordPress, it's free, and you can have a website and not show the blog or not use the blog. But if you have the website software, you're boxed in, you're in a hole, and you don't want to be there. So.
And a lot of lawyers do have separate websites for their blog. A lot of times, also, if you set it up more than 5 years ago, that's usually the case. You don't want to do it that way because you're actually diluting your traffic by having two different spaces online, and it gets confusing to Google, and you don't want to confuse Google because you want Google to love you. So the hero image, and I'll refer to this, the banner with the photo of the attorney as the hero image, is a huge, huge thing for website conversions across the board. We've done a whole bunch of different tests where we used stock photos versus just a logo versus just a scenic picture, and across the board, people are staying on the site longer once they arrive, when they see a picture of someone's face when they arrive. It makes them feel like they know what the person looks like that they're about to hire, that they're available. It personalizes everything, and it speaks to them versus just a picture of, the cityscape of New Orleans, where you don't feel like you have, any connection. You don't know who you're going to be working with, and you don't necessarily feel like you're going to be taken care of well. If you're a small firm rather than a solo, you can, but you don't have to, include your entire team in your hero image. This shows that, you have multiple attorneys, you have a little bit more bandwidth, you have a team. So this is an example of the hero image with multiple people in it. And Ernie, do you have any notes on that before I move to the second secret?
Well, the main thing I would say is I know a lot of lawyers are hesitant, or they just don't get around to putting their picture on the website, or they're concerned about you have to have your picture on your website, okay? And part of the reason why is because when we talk about, oh, this is so great, people find you online and they hire you without ever talking to you. Yes, but you have to get almost everything right. If you're meeting somebody in person, you can read what they're saying and say, oh, well, they have a question about this. But online, you need to nail every concern that people would have. And the biggest general concern that all people have who would hire a doctor, any kind of service professional, is what does this person look like, or what do the people that work there look like? And do they look happy? Are they smiling? What do their offices look like? These are the questions people have. Now, you can ask people if they have these questions, and they may not verbalize that, but the reality is they do. And that's why when Megan said, when you test these things, as she has done extensively, they show they prefer this by their actions, right? So we don't have to ask people in a survey, do you prefer to see the lawyer? We know this because when you test a website with an image of the lawyer versus one with some other kind of image, people take action when there's the picture of the lawyer. So it's basic human psychology. Let's use that for us and not against us.
Boom. The second secret is copy that captures, engages, and converts. Copy is the important word in this sentence. There's no magical design aesthetic that's going to make clients give you a call. You can have the best picture in the world, you can have the best framework, you can have the prettiest design, but if your message does not resonate with the person who's viewing your website, they're going to bounce and leave your website. So you want to craft the perfect headline. We'll talk about that. You want to include a very clear call to action, not a whole bunch of different calls to action, but if you offer free initial consultations, maybe it's just a basic contact me, but it has to be something. You want to call them to action, to call you, email you something, and you want to tell your story authentically. And this is the part that most lawyers find the most difficult. A lot of lawyer bios are very dry and boring. They list your awards and your accomplishments and where you went to school, and no one actually cares about that. If someone's reading your about page or trying to read your story, it's because they want to see if they are going to connect with you.
Right. I mean, if they care very little compared to something else that they care about a lot more. And so I know y'all have probably heard me talk about this before, but there's two things that really matter, psychologically for somebody to say, well, I'm thinking of hiring this lawyer, should I hire the lawyer? Okay, number one is, does the lawyer know their stuff? Like, do they have authority? And obviously, the longer you've been practicing, the more you specialize, let's not get into the ethics thing, but the focus, whatever word you want to use, but the more it's clear that you only do or mostly only do one thing, and that thing is the thing that they have trouble with. So they go, oh, that lawyer definitely knows their stuff. That's what tells them that you know your stuff. The awards you got, where you graduated in law school, that's not actually that important, but that's the authority component. The other component, which actually matters probably 80%, whereas the authority is 20%, is what kind of person are you? Will I enjoy working with you? Will you make me feel comfortable when I'm telling you about problems I have? Am I going to feel like you're really, passionate about this kind of problem, or are you just doing it because you get paid? And just a whole bunch of things like that relate to the empathy, right? And so if you tell your story in a way that lets people know, oh my God, this lawyer really likes doing this work. This is like their mission, Yeah, they get paid, but there's a woman named Sheila Murthy who the New York Times profiled, and she was this immigration lawyer, and she grew her firm from nothing online in 1998 or 92 or something, and now she does like $10 million a year, and she has 100 people working for her. And the whole reason why she grew so quickly wasn't just because she was online. It was because her story was, hey, look, I was an immigrant. I came to the US and I had all these problems with green cards, and it really bothered me. I became a lawyer, and I really like doing this work. You think that's not a compelling story? It's an amazing, compelling story. Now, your story is going to be slightly different, but you have to tell it. You have to tell it well, and no one likes to tell their own story. So my recommendation is get somebody to help you tell your story, and that's basically what, Megan does, right?
Yeah, actually, that's one of the things that we do is usually do like an extensive phone call where we interview you and you kind of feel like you're in trouble a little bit because we drill you with a lot of questions. And then that's how you find the good stuff because you have good stuff. And a lot of times, if you're trying to write your own bio, you're trying to figure out a spin or you're trying to replicate something you've seen before. And the best way to be authentic is just to tell your own specific story. So we will also get into more of that and show you some examples. But going back to crafting the perfect headline, this is really important because this is the shortest piece of copy, the initial piece of copy that people are going to read when they get to your website. I recommend putting it in the banner with your hero image so that it's front and center when people find you. And I recommend testing out a few different ones if you're not sure what the perfect headline is. These are some examples. This is one we did for Jackie Ford in Oklahoma. Fierce defense attorneys fighting for your rights. She wanted to go with something very powerful that represented that she was very much a fierce attorney. And so this has been very effective. This on the left, when it comes to litigation, always go with a virgin. I think this is kind of funny and weird and tongue-in-cheek.
Well, it catches people and makes them think, what do you mean by that? That's one of the tricks in the headline is something that's incongruous because that's like number one of like top three things that will cause people to stop and pay attention. One is something that causes fear, but one of them is just curiosity. Like, this is incongruous. How does that work? And then you see, oh, his name is Stevens Virgin. So, or the firm's name is Stevens Virgin. So they're thinking, okay, I get it. So now you've drilled in, they remember the name. That in and of itself is not going to convert people and say, oh, well, of course we're going to hire this person because he's got the name Virgin. But it's going to help you if you're that firm plant your message in their mind, right? Because it's a battle for them remembering who you are, distinguishing you, and so forth. But the best headlines are something that say something unique about what you do in a way that resonates very powerful with your ideal audience. So when it comes to litigation, I always go the Virgin. That's clever, but I think there's probably a better way to do that one. The other one, injured in an accident, holla at your people. That's not what I would say, but that is probably
That's
what
who
the kind
I
of,
would hire, though.
but that's the kind of the kind of people that maybe Don Ruzan's going after. That's maybe how they speak, right? So you have to use phrases and words that your ideal clients use. That's the trick. It's not about being clever. It's about quickly getting those people to go, oh, that's the kind of lawyer I'd like to work with.
I feel like Don's approach. So I the first time I saw this billboard driving, I like almost swerved off because I was so excited about it. And I think it's really interesting because it's so simple, but it immediately has an informality that tells you that this is not a stuffy lawyer. This is someone who's approachable. This is someone who's going to have reasonable pricing. And I'm probably going to be able to reach him or someone on the phone whenever I call.
Right. Yeah, no, it's funny. Like, I'll just tell you as a quick aside, I had no idea how people thought about things, but when I first started the website, Ernie the Attorney thing back in 2002, I'd get these emails from people who wanted to hire me. Of course, they couldn't because I was at the big firm and it cost too much money. But they would tell me they want to hire me. I was like, well, why do you decide you want to hire me? I said, well, you have this website called Ernie the Attorney, and you just sound so down to earth and approachable. They concluded that I was down to earth and approachable simply because of the title I gave my site. So the point is that part, the headline, needs to do some work. It can't be lame. You can't say bland, cliche things. You need to get your message across and figure out who am I talking to? What do they think like? What are the buzzwords not buzzwords like, cliche words, but what are the words that are going to trigger a reaction where they go, oh, I think I'd want to hire that lawyer. And it's usually not what you think because we as lawyers tend to be locked in logical mode all the time. And these decisions are happening at the subconscious level and they're emotional, they're psychological, they have nothing to do with logic.
And it is a good idea to play around with different versions of your name or your firm name because that just makes you extra memorable. So Ernie the Attorney, if your name rhymes with attorney in any way, you can really work that angle. The Stevens Virgin guy is an example. There's one that's the Gray Law Firm. I actually meant to put them up here. It's the Gray Law Firm because not every case is black and white.
Right.
And I thought that was really well done too. So if you do have a name that you can work something into, it really comes full circle. Okay, call to action. These are some examples of taking the standard call to action and going a little bit further with it. So divorce may cloud your judgment, not ours. Call us. I help people hurt by doctors get paid for their injuries. Let's talk now. That's very direct to your target market. We don't judge you. We help you get your life back. And then the button actually says, help me get debt free and improve my credit now. So keep in mind your call to action. The button on your call to action doesn't just have to say contact. It doesn't just have to say call us. It doesn't just have to say click here. Your button can be another chance to work copy in to get people to actually click.
Yeah, it's very important that you have a call to action. And it's also important that you think, and we'll talk about this, that you have the obvious call to action is call us, right? Every lawyer's like, yeah, pick up the phone and call me. Well, and some people will, but a lot of people won't. And a lot of them won't because they want to know more about you. They don't want to talk to a human being who's going to pressure them into trying to, hire them. So having a transitional call to action that's not the ultimate one, like, hey, here's a free report, or, let's talk now is okay, but, help me get debt free and improve my credit now. I'm thinking, well, how does that work? What if I click that button, what's going to happen next? And if what happens next is they say, download this free report, that's a transitional call to action. It's not the full-blown hire us now. And then to get that report, I might have to give them my email address. And if I give my email address, they follow up. So you want calls to action that are the obvious phone number at the top. Everybody knows that trick. The trick is what if they don't want to call you right now? Yes, this is the most important thing. I mean, telling your story authentically is, and I discovered this totally by accident because I wasn't trying to market because I thought I was a horrible marketer. So I just started a blog and nobody's trying to make money off of it. But what people told me was, hey, you seem so authentic. Well, I was because I wasn't trying to do anything other than be myself. And turns out that's actually the best way to convince people that haven't met you, that just discover you by stumbling upon your website, or maybe they did meet you and they're going to check you out more. But whatever it is, they're coming to your website, and instead of a dry recitation of facts and accomplishments, you tell your story. But the trick is, this is very hard for the person who has to tell the story to do. It took me forever to figure out how to tell my own story, and I probably could tell it better if I got somebody else to help me do it. It took me years and studying a lot of stuff. I could just go up to somebody and say, hey, you're a copywriter. Here's my story. Pick out the parts that make sense, and they would know how to tell the story because they know how to tell the parts. They're going to resonate the most quickly, and so forth. And they'll think of things that I might not think are important and go, no, that's actually really super important. So you need to tell your story, and if you're not comfortable with it, and I'm sure 99% of you aren't, then the best thing you can do, absolutely the best thing you can do before you fancify your website and do anything else, is get somebody to take your story and condense it so that you can put it on your website. You can put it on an Avvo page. You can put it in LinkedIn. You can put it on a billboard if you need to, but you have to tell your story, and you probably aren't very good at telling it.
And I think what I really, really love about this section on Ramesh's website is that he, at the beginning of starting his firm, was very conscious that he was practicing injury law and that people have a really bad taste in their mouths for injury lawyers. He wanted to set himself apart, but instead of going right into I this, I that, this is how he told the reader about themselves and their existing beliefs. And then he changed the dialogue and the conversation to move towards how he does things differently. And it prompts you to learn more, which people do want to know more.
Yeah.
So since we're talking about copy, I'm going to now bring up that blogging is very, very important. If you're not blogging already, you should be. If you're using WordPress, you already have a built-in blogging feature that you can take advantage of. This was a case study that we did of 30-day averages before implementing a weekly blog. So just website built out, no blog. This is the average traffic, 400 per month. And then average calls, emails from the website was 18. Moving into, this is what we measure so 5 months after we implemented a weekly blog, so once a week, 4 times a month, the traffic more than doubled. And the organic calls and emails and searches, actual leads coming in, more than doubled as well. This is because of a lot of things. But this is SEO in action. So when you're creating content regularly and updating your website with it, Google is paying attention. And if you use your keywords within your blog posts, and if you create actual, substantial, interesting content that people want to read, and if you can do that holy grail of including also really timely, relevant, newsy things as well mixed in there once a month, you are going to start improving your ranking because your content is going to be recognized as valuable to your search terms. And most of your competitors are probably not doing it at all. And so you have that advantage as well for that to happen quicker. I've seen this happen in as little as 2 months, but 5 is something that I feel like you should commit to before you give up.
Yeah, and the key is not just creating content, it's creating really good content. And this is where and look, let me just say, we all would like this stuff to happen faster and to cost less. And the people who sell these kind of services are notoriously scammy. And I know somebody mentioned they had a FindLaw website and didn't like it. Most people eventually discover they don't like FindLaw websites. But FindLaw is not that much different in the sense of what they're not doing well as other people. Because think about how they make money. They're like, we have a bunch of lawyers who trust us because we're affiliated with Thomson Reuters, which owns West Publishing, and we'll tell them, look, this creating content super important. And lawyers who listen to these kind of stats go, yes, I see that, but I don't have time to do it. So is there any way that you could do it for me? And FindLaw goes, yeah, don't worry your pretty little head about this. We have content creation specialists who will create this content for you. Now, they're doing this not just for you. They're doing it for, let's say, thousands of lawyers in the US. You think they're not duplicating their content? Yeah, if they create it once, efficiency tells them, well, let's just spread it around. And if we created a bankruptcy post, for a guy in Minnesota, let's use it for the bankruptcy lawyer in Spokane. And what happens is Google sees those duplicate posts that have the exact same language and goes, whoa, 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 whoa. This is just people trying to get rich quick, and this is not valid, bespoke, authentic content. This is some person trying to game the system. And then they penalize the site. And this is why FindLaw sites have gotten penalized. It's also why FindLaw can maybe get you good results initially for a little while, but then they drop off because after a while Google goes, wait, this is not authentic. So if you're going to do this, you need to do it well. If you don't have the time to do it yourself, then you should at least talk to somebody who knows what needs to be done and say, show me how this is done when it's done well. And then you can decide whether you want to do it, whether you want to pay them, but you need to understand how it's done well. And let me just tell you, it's not easy. You should outsource this. Like the part where you go, okay, well, I practice bankruptcy in Spokane, let's say. So I want to rank high for that. Well, then somebody needs to go do research. We're all lawyers here, like we understand research. And when we all started out, that was the grunt work that we had to do because we couldn't do other more important stuff. Well, that work has to be done. You can't just go, well, I'm just going to file a brief and not have any research done. The research that's done to see, well, what's ranking high? Why is it ranking high? What can we get action for quickly? You need somebody to do that. That's what Megan does. I've learned how to do it. I don't like doing it. I don't plan to do it ever again in my life, but I can do a little bit of it. I understand how it works. It's very intricate. It's just as intricate as the legal research you do as a lawyer. But if you're going to create good content, you're not going to have to be cranking it out crazily. You're just going to have every one of the pieces of content you create needs to be good, and it needs to be targeted, and it needs to be calculated in a very specific way to get action. And that's the first step is the research. The second step is writing it. The third step is promoting it. And all that stuff goes together. And if you're going to some person who's a mill who says, yeah, we crank out lots of content, you can be sure they don't care as much about you, and that you can also be sure Google's probably not going to care about you as much as well either.
Agreed. So chances are you also maybe have someone on your team or within your firm that's a great writer, and that's an option that you can talk to them about starting content for the blog. There's one lawyer that we worked with whose wife blogs for him once a week, and they are great, like some of the best that I've seen. Mm-hmm. So it's a good tip. Hire someone individually or appoint someone individually to do this. Don't try to get like big mill, cheap and dirty content because it's going to work against you rather than for you. And secret number 3, this is going to be a lot easier than the other secrets where we gave you a whole bunch of homework to do. Secret number 3 is to show them what you're working with. So if you're a lawyer, you are part of a bar association, you're licensed to practice law, you went to law school, you're probably on AVO, you might be on Super Lawyers, FindLaw. There's a ton of badges for all kinds of different affiliations and awards that you already have. So take those and put them on your website. This is another test that we did with badges. We're also going to talk about testimonials and working testimonials into the actual copy of your website to tell the story. But badges build trust. They make a great first impression. They prove authority, and they're just so easy to implement. I recommend putting them above the fold in the area where you have your hero image at the top of the page, and then repeating them in some spot just across the page on each one of your pages. This is going to immediately build trust with someone who's coming to your site organically and doesn't know you yet.
Yeah. And you know what's funny is like, so when super lawyers became a thing initially, and they started reaching out to everyone saying, "Oh, we'll feature you in our book, and if we feature you, would you want to buy a diploma or something suitable for framing?" And so it's the classic, vanity play, right? But super lawyers became, um, powerful because Westlaw, or not Westlaw, who was uh, Martindale Hubble. Martindale Hubble charged you to put your ranking on your site. Of course, nobody's going to put it on unless they had the top ranking. But if you're in a firm, they're going to charge you. And so, like the big firm I was at was like, well, we're not going to pay them. We already pay them, so we're not going to use that on our website. But we're not going to use super lawyers either because that's kind of cheesy. Well, it turns out it converts, right? And people learn this. So guess who puts super lawyers on their website now? Everybody puts it on their website because it works. So Megan's point is really important. This is super easy to do. You just see who you are trusted by, and you put those badges on your website. Now you might have to check to make sure. In some instances, if it's for your state bar association, whether you can do it or what the terms are, but Alvo will let you put it on there. If you have a 10 rating, you should put that on. You need these badges. Nobody sits there and looks at them and thinks, oh, let me study the badges. I'm just telling you, psychologically, subconsciously, they help conversions, which is why we use them.
And that's the biggest argument that I hear from lawyers is they're like, everyone has these. This doesn't really mean anything. Well, as a non-lawyer and as someone looking to hire a lawyer, if I come to your website and I see that, I don't know that they don't mean anything. To me, I just feel automatically more comfortable.
Yeah. So yeah, testimonials. So the thing about testimonials and all this stuff really is, it's based on this principle called social proof, and it's one of the 6 things that psychologist Robert Cialdini talks about in his book Influence, which many of you have heard me talk about. It's really important. I would get this book, I would read it, I would absolutely, immerse myself in it. But one of the most powerful, primate brain driving, influencing things for humans is, well, what are other people saying or doing? When you're not sure about something, and we live in a state of constant not being completely confident about things, especially when it comes to hiring a lawyer, like, well, which one should we hire? Is this the right one? That's a big move for most people. So if they can look around and see, well, other people hired this lawyer and say this lawyer is great, they're more likely to hire that lawyer, like, 2 to 3 times more likely, simply because somebody said, oh, this is great. Now they don't need to know the person. They just need to see a testimonial. And here's the key: the testimonial needs to be legit. It needs to be actually collected in a way that causes the person to say it in a conversational way, not just say they're the greatest lawyer. You have to get them to talk, to verbalize and expound upon what they're thinking. And if you do this in the right way, and believe me, there's a right way to do this, and the best part of this is it can be automated. You can get great testimonials. So this is a great testimonial, right? And you should feature this on your website.
And I always recommend that if you're requesting testimonials for your website, that you do the 2 birds, 1 stone method. And that is that places like Google Plus and Avvo and even Facebook, you really benefit from having user reviews that people actually went on the site and left there themselves, especially on your Google location pages. It's really, really important. I would send people there to leave the review first and then copy paste it onto your website. So they're only having to do it once, but you get the benefit of having it in both places.
Yeah. And so this is a testimonial for a lawyer that I started working on helping him put together an email campaign. He's a bankruptcy lawyer in Pennsylvania. And so I had the emails all laid out, but I needed an email. I needed to start talking about what other people had felt like when they were working with him. And I had not asked him yet about testimonials, but I thought, well, before I ask him if he has any, I'll just go to Avvo and see if anybody's left any testimonials. And sure enough, they had. There were 23 testimonials. They were all glowing. He does more than just bankruptcy, but I picked the ones that were related to bankruptcy. But this was one of the best ones, right? I figured he was a good lawyer. My friend told me he was a good lawyer. After I read a few of his testimonials, I realized his clients love him. So if your clients love you, then you need to figure out a way to get them to say that so that you can use their endorsement of you somewhere. So Avo is a good place. This is where he collected them all. But when you read this testimonial, oh my God, they're starting with the perfect thing, which is they're not just saying, oh, he's the greatest lawyer ever. That would be great. But what they're saying is they're talking about their concerns in hiring a lawyer. You don't think these concerns are shared by other people? I've had a bunch of other lawyers. I've used them. I never had a good experience until I hired Patrick. He was a breath of fresh air, kept me informed, always made time to answer questions. I left him a message on Saturday, call me back. You know, this person loves this lawyer, right? And everyone knows that this is a legit, a legit testimonial because you can just see how it's written. There's the word office and then Barbara. There's no space there. If a lawyer wrote this, they wouldn't put an ampersand. They would have it all perfect. I mean, everyone can tell this is a legit testimonial. If you get testimonials like this, you need to feature them. And you can get testimonials like this unless your clients don't love you. And if they don't love you, well, you need to work on that. But if they love you, then you should use their glowing endorsements in a way that helps you get other similar clients. Because remember what we're talking about is not just getting any old client, but getting the kind of clients that you like working with.
Quick legal ethics note on that. Let's just say this review did say, Patrick is the greatest attorney ever. He's the best. He's the only lawyer that you should hire. All of those things.
Yeah, no, you have to take that out.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Well, he can leave that on Google Plus or wherever if he wants to. That's his review. You don't want to copy paste that one onto your website though, because you placing it on your website makes you responsible for the verbiage. So
yeah. I mean, there's the ethics issues, but we're just talking about the fact of collecting it.
I'm just telling them to be careful.
Yeah, and
be careful.
And y'all know to be careful, and we can talk about all that. I'm just saying, a lot of lawyers will say, I can't get a testimonial, I can't use it. They start thinking with all the things they can't do. Trust me, you can do a lot. And
you can do a lot more than you can't.
Yeah, and I have a blog post that's going to come out next Tuesday that's going to be a lengthy explanation of how to get testimonials.
And I stole a lot of that and created this slide, which if you email me afterward, I'll give you that email address. I will send you the slide deck.
Yeah.
And Ernie's going to have a video. So we're not going to go super specific into these. But instead, we're going to go ahead and talk about how to tie all the things that we just talked about together. So this is an example of a very highly converting attorney homepage. It's got the compelling tagline. It's got the clickable phone number at the top to make it really easy if you're on mobile and you just want to click to call. It's got the hero image to show you the firm. It's got a call to action to schedule a free consultation, which a lot of people click. And it's got those authoritative badges watermarked at the bottom of the image. So all of this pulled together increases the time spent on site. It makes people more likely to click the consultation, click to call. The verbiage, the call to action, the tagline are very calling to the target market here. It's a criminal defense firm. So this is a really good example of what you want to be shooting for. And that's our last slide.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, Megan. That was a great presentation.
That was fun. Thank you.
Yeah. Very succinct, very clear. So I hope you all got a lot out of it, and I'm sure you did.
If you're interested in learning how to create your own client-generating website, sign up for my online course and build it yourself in just 6 weeks. You can use this URL for 50% off the course.
Thanks, Megan.